Hi guys, it's Lenore, and what I'm going to prepare for you today is the Soy Chorizo Lasagna bake. Super yummy. Don't let the name Soy Chorizo fool you. It's so delicious. It's vegetarian as well as for the meat lover. They did such a good job. The flavor is spectacular. So between that and the mushrooms and the onions and the herbs, this whole casserole comes together really nicely. Super delicious stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Hopefully you've already prepared your ingredients. It makes it much easier to cook when you already have everything measured out and ready to go. Worth the extra time spent. Saves you some on the other end. So I went ahead and boiled my noodles also, and I boiled them with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of salt, and I kind of eyeball everything, so it was just a pinch of this, pinch of that, a little drizzle of this, just to add some goodness into the water. So the noodles are already ready, and the sauce also is done and ready to go. And the trick with the sauce, I'll tell you that as I'm layering it. I'm going to go ahead and make it in a 9 by 12 lasagna pan. So I first start with just layering the bottom layer of the pan with just a little bit of sauce, just to kind of keep the noodles from being on the bottom and burning. And you know, I'm always for extra goodness where you can put it. This sauce, I actually use the little packets that you find in the grocery, and I mix them. The trick there is that instead of using the regular milk, which is what they suggest, I use heavy whipping cream, so it just adds a little more richness and a little more deliciousness to your pasta. But by all means, if you want it to be a little less rich and a little less fattening, use regular milk, use skim milk for all I care. Just make it so that you enjoy it. So here's the noodles. I'm going to go ahead, this is where the bulk of your noodles are for this dish. So you pretty much use all of them, which it's just one bag of noodles. And here I have the extra wide spirals, and I really like those just because of the way it lays, and it bakes really nice, and you can still cut it up pretty friendly. But use whatever noodle you want. So I'm going to go ahead and use most of them, save maybe about another thin layer for the top. There's lots of layers in this dish, so you have to prepare mentally for that. And it's also helpful to think about that when you're making it. It's all about layers. Just layer everything nicely and evenly, and every bite will be super delicious. Next, I have the jack cheese, and again, I use the majority of this cheese at this part. I do save a little bit at the top for some garnish, but most of it is used at this time. Spread it evenly everywhere throughout the whole pasta. And again, I'm such a big fan of saying to wash your hands and clean your hands, so I did that before we began. So my hands are clean. So I'm going to go ahead and keep frolicking within the pasta. You get my drift. Alright, so now we have the noodles and the cheese. Now this is where the bulk of your sauce is. So go ahead and use most of that and just layer it pretty nicely. Cover everything. Save some of it again for the top layer. And I went ahead and pulled out already a cup. So the 2 sauce packets that you'll make for this recipe will make 3 cups total. And you're going to use 2 cups here and 1 cup for the end. You know, less the little bit that you use in the beginning, but that's not much at all. So go ahead and make sure that your sauce is evenly spread throughout your whole dish. You don't want dry pasta. That is no bueno. Everything should be really creamy, really delicious. This by no means is a fat-free dish, so don't try to push it off on your friends as such. However, you can definitely cut corners, so I'll give you, some hints on how to do that. But if you're bringing a dish to a holiday party and you want everyone to talk about how delicious your dish is, make sure you make it in a delicious way. Sometimes when you skimp on certain ingredients, it just doesn't taste as good, but it's just me. Alright, so once you do the sauce, this is where the herbs come in, and I've used fresh herbs from our garden, so I went ahead and chopped all of them up and mixed them already. So this is basil and sage and rosemary, and these are 3 herbs that I use in almost every dish. That's not true. I use it in a lot of dishes, but they add such a deliciousness. It's amazing. So, and the quantities differ between dry herbs and fresh herbs, so I will go ahead and make note of that on the recipe as well. So give like a nice even layer throughout. You don't want to over herb your pasta, but just make sure that there's enough to go around. So after the herbs, this now is the soy chorizo, the yummy deliciousness. You don't have to use this. It definitely adds a little kick to this pasta. It's got red pepper, that's what it is, the red pepper, and possibly paprika that gives it a little bit of a spice. You can use hamburger meat if you are the hamburger type person. You can use a turkey sausage. You can use any meat substitute that you want. This one just happens to make this dish just Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start to layer that, and again, get it everywhere. Make sure every single bite has some delicious soy chorizo. And then once it's in, just spread it around, get it all nice and even. And I also kind of press down as well, just to kind of give me as much room as possible. I want this just packed with yumminess. So the more room I have to throw in some more layers, the better. All right,